Good afternoon. Recording a little video here on playing chess. And what I've got is I'm playing here against the computer. And I'm playing white. And I'm playing an easy game. So this should be fairly straightforward. This is going to show you how to move. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the various moves and why I'm making them. First thing you need to understand, you can see the little arrow here. First thing you need to understand is that during the early part of the game is you want to control the center of the board or the battlefield, if you will. A good first move is to bring out the king pawn 2 spaces. This next move, I'm going to bring this knight out, the king knight out to here, which checks the other player's pawn there. He bought it. The other player bought out their queen pawn, so that puts my pawn here in check. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here is take that other pawn with my pawn. Now he takes my pawn with his queen, which is kind of, in my opinion, a very bad move because he's bringing out his queen very early during the game. And what happens is when you do that, that allows your queen to come under attack. Your queen is your most powerful position on the chessboard. And what most players do, and what's a really good idea to do, is to keep your queen out of the early part of the game, to keep your queen back on the first row there, to keep it protected. So he brought out his queen to take my pawn there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put his queen in check, if you will, or put his queen in a position where it can be captured by bringing out my queen knight here. And bring it out there, and you see it puts the queen in a position where it can be captured. Now, he took my knight with his queen, which was a very bad move on his part because he does not have his queen protected in any way whatsoever, so I can take his queen with my queen. Once again, this is a very easy game. The computer is playing. This is a very easy match, as the computer is playing an easy game. So for a more experienced player, this is going to be a really easy game. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and bring out my king bishop, which will allow me to castle here in a bit. I'm not too worried. His development is not very good, so I'm not too worried about my queen being attacked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring out this king bishop so I can castle here in a couple of minutes. So I'm bringing it out to right there. He bought out his knight, so I'm going to go ahead and castle at this point in time. So castle, you move your king over 2 squares, and the rook automatically comes out on the other side of the queen, or the king. So I'm castling, and so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and bring out this pawn one space, and he is developing his pieces now. So what I need to do is kind of be careful and see where all this is going. Now I see the possibility here, if I can get my knight to this point right down here and capture this pawn down here, that will give me a good knight fork. I'll be putting the king in check, and also I'll be checking this rook over here, and I'll be able to win a piece. So I'll bring my knight out to this point right here. So what he did was he castled, so I can't do that knight fork anymore, but I can fork that rook and his bishop there, and I'm way ahead on points now since I've captured his queen. So if I can do just an even exchange of pieces, I'll win the game. So a good move for me to now is to take the knight and go down and capture that pawn, which will put both of his pieces there in check. Now what I'm going to do, he he took my pawn down here with his bishop. I'm in check now, so I'm going to go ahead and capture with the queen, and that will enable me to get my queen back so it can be in a protected position. And what he's threatening to do now is, with his knight, he moved his knight there. What he's threatening to do is come down here, which I can capture him any place up in here that he puts my pieces in check. I can capture his knight. I can also capture it right now with this pawn, which is what I'm going ahead and doing right now, is capture that knight with the pawn. I'm going ahead and he brought this knight down to this position here, which puts this bishop here in check, but also it checks this puts his pawn right here in check, which is, if he does that, he can capture this rook over here unless I move it. So what I'm going ahead and do, since I can go ahead and capture this rook down here, I'm going ahead and do that. So I'll take my knight down there and I'll capture that rook and see what he does. He took my piece there with his knight, so I'm going ahead and capture his knight. Now, when I do capture this knight, you will notice here that I'm putting myself in a position where he can fork, if you will, the queen and the rook. They'll be both on the same diagonal, and he can bring this bishop down here to this point right here and put both my queen and my rook in check. However, his bishop there is not protected, so if he does that, I'll be able to take it. So I'm not too concerned about that right now. However, if he were to pull this pawn up here and protect that bishop that he could pull down here, then I think this is what's called, it's not called a fork, it's called a skewer, is what they do. Is they put the bishop here. If my queen's there, it'll be a skewer. He'll have two pieces in check there, and they're both very valuable pieces. So I would not want that to happen. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and take his knight. He's putting me in check here. my king in check. So as you can see up here, it says black has put opponent in check. So I've got to do something about that knight. So I'll just go ahead and take it. Now what he did is he took my knight over there with his rook, which is, I expected that to happen. That's not a big deal. So right now he's got 2 pieces on the board. 2 of the more powerful pieces. He's still got some pawns, but he's got 2 of these more powerful pieces. This bishop here and this rook down here, whereas I've got 2 rooks, a queen, and the bishop. So I'm definitely ahead on points. So not too much to worry about. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and bring this bishop on up to here, and that will allow my rook to come out. I'm going to come out and threaten his rook. He'll take my rook, and then I'll take his rook, and then I can easily, unless he does something to guard against it, which he hasn't, he's moved his king over, I can easily put him in checkmate by taking my rook and moving right down to there. So he's in checkmate. So anyway, that's the end of that game. It took only like 11 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on YouTube now, and I'll be playing some more games. I might play another game here in a few minutes. I'll play some more games and show you some more about how to play chess and what's good moves and what's bad moves. But anyway, thanks a lot. If you like these videos, please subscribe if you would. Thanks again.